Hey everybody, today I am taking you on my biggest container update tour of the season. Going to include these jumbo driveway pots as well. But before I do that, let's head to the end of the driveway where I can show you an update on the AquaPots. Here at the end of the driveway, we have a trio of AquaPots, and this one here contains one Petunia Vista Paradise. This is such a beautiful petunia, and it's fared really well considering last week we had 2 days of torrential rains, and then we had a lot of wind as well, and it got a little beat up, but all of these plants have bounced back really well, and the AquaPots have been so easy to take care of. This one here is doing great. So this is the Surfenia Deep Red, I think it's called. That's a beautiful petunia. And then this coleus here is the Talverna tricolor. And then over here, now the ponytails grass is kind of taken over, and I didn't know how it was going to do in here. I like how it looks. However, the plants I have in there are getting a little overshadowed. So this is, I think, either a bee's knees petunia or a Supertunia saffron finch. I think I went with the bee's knees in this one. And then over here, I have a calibrachoa. It's the Super Bell's double redstone, and it's a beautiful calibrachoa, but I will say that the flowers have been a little bit small, and all the rain that we had last week really did take them down. So I'm seeing a lot of new growth now that it's had time to recover from the weather. But this one, I was a little surprised. I thought it would have a lot more flowers on it throughout the season, but it's been kind of more sparse like this. So we'll see how it does later on. I'm hoping it'll kind of improve a little bit. So at the last minute, we decided to add some containers here along our avenue of hydrangeas in the driveway. And we're so happy we did, because it definitely dresses up the driveway. Really good handshake for people. And some of the plants are doing incredible, like this trailing mizu, also called a Livingston daisy. Check out those beautiful little red flowers. They're kind of petite, and they just kind of pop in there here and there. But this plant's so great because it can take sun or shade. It's really forgiving with water. We have it with some, I think those are supermoon geraniums. My mom had just cleaned the geraniums today, so we're not going to see too many blooms. And this is a rubrum grass, but it's acting kind of funny because the grass is usually more purple than this, and you can see kind of blonde plumes on this, but then it also has some more purple ones, and the stems are more purple on these. So these are kind of misbehaving a little. The surefire begonias and the dragonwing begonias we tucked in here, they're acting up a little bit. Actually, I think these might all be dragonwing. I'm not sure, but they're kind of crispy on the edges. I don't know if it's a watering issue or because everything else seems to be doing well, but the other ones are maybe a little more drought tolerant. I'm not sure. We'll have to keep an eye on those, but still looks like a great container. And then over here, we have some of the Suncredible Helianthus. These are those sunflowers. They're from Proven Winners. And what's interesting, if you take a look at the size of this one, and then you take a look at the size of this one's about a foot taller and wider than the other one. And this seems to be something that happens like out of maybe 5 to 8% of the Suncredibles to us, that where most of them are this size, this big size, but then we end up with some of the smaller ones. I don't mind the small ones at all, but it's just strange that this exact same plant, every once in a while, there's some that just stay smaller, but this thing has been blooming nonstop. You will get thousands of blooms on these types of sunflowers. They're really beautiful. And this one here, I just want to show you because we did have in the storm, this one cracked. So if we look right down in there, I mean, it really cracked right down. And at first we thought, oh, we're going to add some support, but it's doing fine right now. Now, that might not be the case in a couple of weeks. It might, start losing some of these branches. But we thought, you know what, let's just leave it. Let's let it be the way it is. And if we need to swap it out or take it out, that's not that big of a deal. Let me take, oh man, look over here. We're getting really good color this year off of the quick fires. They're that nice soft pink this year. A lot of times they turn a little bit more reddish colored, but they're really nice and pink. And I think part of it has to do, we're getting a little more moisture than usual. So they're really quite they're getting a lot of water compared to previous years. And I want to show you this one over here because we have, these are some calliope, I think just the pink geranium there, but this is one of those flowers that I'm just falling in love with. It is a blue butterfly bush, has kind of a complicated name, but we just decided to put it in here to see how it does, because this is a plant that we've never carried before. It's not one that we've seen anywhere else, but we found it from one of our suppliers, and just look at those beautiful flowers on there. They look like cartoon butterflies, kind of like the butterflies that maybe Snow White would have been having, flying around her. And look at the size of it. It gets really big, and it just keeps sending up more and more of these flowers. So we're going to be keeping an eye on this one to see how long it blooms, but it's been great so far. It was a little bit of a slow starter, but once it got going, it was fantastic. And here we have another one of the AquaPots. And so this AquaPot has some canna in there, and these cannas really do love the AquaPot. They get that unlimited water, so they get really nice. I mean, these things, this is one canna and it is huge, absolutely huge. And then that's with either a bee's knees petunia or the Super Petunia saffron finch. And then if we look over here, this is the mini famous Neo Red Hawaii. That's a Calibrachoa. That's looking really good. Now, if we look over on this side, you can see what some of the weather damage did to this petunia. It just kept getting hit from one direction last week, and it definitely is showing some stress. Also, I think with this canna starting to take up a lot more root room, we might start seeing these other plants struggle just a little bit more. So far, they're doing okay, but it's really the canna that's looking fantastic in there. And from a distance, these look absolutely stunning. Now, this one really was a hodgepodge of leftover plants. So this is just a lemongrass in here. And lemongrass isn't maybe the most elegant in plants. It's very casual in the way it grows, but it's doing great in this pot. Gives it some height, gives it some whimsy. And then we have it with the Senecio angel wings, and those are doing great. They really, you know, once it gets warm, they really take off. Have it with, I think that's a Calliope dark red geranium. And then this is the under the sea bonefish coleus, and I really do love the leaves on that. But you can see this coleus gets a really nice size as well. And then we pop over here, you get to see another lemongrass. We had some lemongrass left over, so we just popped them in here. And this is some of that coleus that I had started from seed. What is it called? Dragon Heart or Dragon, I always forget the name of it, but that's looking really good with that pink geranium. Wouldn't have thought of putting it with pink. I love how it looks in there. And then on here, have another, I think that's a supermoon geranium. And then these are some of the chili peppers that I had started from seed, and those are looking fantastic. And that's just a red spike, or Dracana spike. It's the magenta one is the name of it. And then over here we have yet another bunch of cannas. We're really falling in love with the cannas here, and that's all we did was put 2 colors of canna. And I love putting the bronze leaf canna with the green leaf. I think it's beautiful, and then that yellow and that orange look really nice together. And then we put it in with some portulaca, and the portulaca, it is starting to get dark out, so we're losing our flowers right now. They're starting to close up for the night, but beautiful plant, doing really well so far. And I'm just going to show you, if you look in here, you see that white pile of mold. We had sent one of the high school students out to put Sluggo in, and that's what happens when you put more Sluggo than you need. We like to put a little bit of Sluggo in, and the slugs and snails will eat it, but if you put too much in, then it just rots like that and doesn't look good. Now in this pot, nobody sees it, but we don't like to look at that. And then we're going to head just up this way. This is one of the containers I think I potted up for my sister. So here we have a Colocasia. I think that's the Regal Shield. Has that beautiful underside. That's with one of the Surefire white begonias. That is doing great. I do see there is some slug holes or bug holes in there, so we are having a little bit of issue with that. And that's with the Gardenmeister fuchsia. This is such a beautiful plant. I love the flowers on it. It's growing really nice. And then this is probably one of the Portofino. I think that's the hot coral begonia. And then another one of those Mizus. And then this is another begonia. I can't remember if this is, which one that is. I'd have to look back on the video of me planting it. I think I put it on video. I never remember now which ones I had videoed and which ones were planted up. And then we'll head further up. So these were twin containers, but they both ended up with their own issues. So this one here, in the bad weather, the coleus had gotten beaten up by the wind, so it got broken, but its lobelia and its begonia look great. This one here, the begonia looks good, but its lobelia had dried out at some point, and so it lost its flowers. Then also the coleus, and this one looks really great. So between the two, we have, you know, one good container. This one here is looking great. So this is one that I potted up for my sister. This is the Amstel Blitz begonia, still holding up really well, blooming a lot. This is the Color Blaze Albrighto coleus, beautiful. This is the Main Street. I think this one is the Riverwalk coleus. And then this is, oh, I can't remember if this is one of the Portofino begonias. It probably is. Or what, I'll have to look back at what one this one is, because look at the size of that flower. It's absolutely huge. Beautiful dark leaves on it. I'm loving this begonia. That's really stunning, and it's getting kind of buried. Oh, I can look right here to see what it is. No, I can't. And then around the back, there's a Hypoestes in here, but that's kind of, it's I guess they're doing okay. They're just kind of hidden back there. So this container is a mix of coleus and sweet potato vine. So this sweet potato vine is a climbing sweet potato vine. So you can see it's going up this trellis here, and it's just filling in really nicely. The leaves are huge on this. I wasn't expecting the leaves to be this big. It must be getting a lot of good food. Then I'm testing some of the different coleus. So this one here is the Talverna Sienna, and I wanted to compare it to the Trusty Rusty because they're very similar in color, but you can see Trusty Rusty has a bit more of that halo around the edge. This one here is one of the flamethrower coleus, and so this one here and this one here is the spiced curry flamethrower. I love the leaves on this. It's very, very almost metallic and coppery. Absolutely beautiful. And then this is another one I plotted up for my sister. This one is kind of a mixed bag. So this is that Picotee nonstop begonia. Look at how huge this thing is. I mean, it's just filling out really nice. And then it has the yellow nonstop in there. I think that was a nonstop. So that's doing well. And then it has that white nonstop, the Hypoestes. Probably could use a trim here. And then the fuchsia that was in there that I had put in, it's just kind of popping out in different spots. So I kind of like that effect. So, you know, a lot of times when you put a fuchsia in something, it really becomes a prominent plant. But in this one, it's just popping through in different spots. So that's a fun one. Don't mind all of our weeds and stuff. We're not keeping up with that. The Tradescantia isn't doing quite as well out here as it has in other places. So, you know, this one looks good, but it's just a little leggy and rough there, but that's okay. We're not going to worry about it. This is one of the perennial pots that I put together. So you can see that Primo Black Pearl Corabelle or Heuchera doing fantastic, getting ready to bloom again. So look at that nice coverage of blooms. This is that Artisan soft orange Echinacea. So these are kind of just finishing up. So they're lightening up, but there are new ones in here as well. So they go from that darker color and then they just soften as they go. And then this is that Sylvester Blue catmint that I had, it's been sheared back since I planted it, and now it's starting to send up new stuff. And I'm just going to show you real quick. This is Salvia argentiums that I had started from seed a couple years ago. It was one of the first plants I ever started from seed, and you can see it has that kind of lamb's ear quality. And now this year I don't think it's going to bloom because it bloomed last year. I think it's biennial, so it'll bloom next year. And the slugs do love this one, so we got to keep sluggo on this one. But it's a really cool plant. It does catch all of the clippings from the lawn though. And then I do have some of my white swan marigolds tucked in here. They're starting to bloom a little bit and fill out. And then these marigolds over here are the cocoa yellow, which are doing great. Check out that crocosmia. That's doing great. Wow. And then some incredibles. Oh, okay. Now it's time to get back over. I've already given you an update on this container, but I wanted to show you how this angel wing senecio is doing, because early in the season I was cutting back the petunia so that this would have room to grow and so that it could expand. And now I think I'm going to be cutting that back to give room for the petunia to be able to take in. So it's very interesting. So that is the Supertunia Mini Vista White and the Supertunia Hoopla Vivid Orchid, doing great in there. And then I do want to stop and show you some of these geraniums. So this is the Caldera Lavender Glow, and there's only 2 plants in here. And just to show you another example of what 2 good geraniums can do, this is 2 of the Calliopes in that pot. Absolutely phenomenal. And then of course I brought out my what is it called, the blue passion vine, and look at that, just beautiful blooms in there. And there's so many more coming. And look, I'm getting now, before I was only getting like 1 bloom a day. Now there's quite often 2 or 3 per day. So that's been a lot of fun. And so you can see, like, this is probably going to be opening up tomorrow. So very exciting. The Scaevola is doing fantastic. And I also like this container here. It's kind of a strange one, but it has this Superbena Royale Romance, which is this red, beautiful verbena. Have it with the Bandolista Pineapple Lantana. This is the Archangel Ruby Sangria Angelonia. So that's getting a little bit swallowed up, but it's looking really good, and the color looks so good with this verbena. And then this is the Under the Sea Golden Guppy, and this is the yellowest I've seen it. A lot of times it has more than one color on it, or it's not as yellow as this. So unfortunately it's not a consistent one, and holy smokes, take a look at these petunias. So these are headliner petunias in here. So we hear a lot about supertunias and waves. I talk about a lot of the other ones, but these here are all headliners. So there's 3 different kinds in here. So there's, or maybe there's 2, I can't remember. This is the headliner Night Sky. This one is the headliner, I don't remember if it's Sky Blue. I'll put it on the screen to tell you what kind it is. So, I mean, these fill in very, very nicely, look fantastic. So, okay, now I gotta, oh, but before I go any further, check out this one here. This is one, we didn't order this petunia. It was just a random petunia that just kind of showed up in one of our containers, and it opened this color. We don't know which one it is, but it sure is pretty. It's a really nice kind of purple and magenta, and then it has that nice kind of yellowy rim on it. Very, very nice. And the same thing happened with this one. We're not exactly sure. This is probably one of the Amore series maybe of petunias, but that just showed up, and you can see we're having some earwig damage going on here. So we're gonna have to get those treated pretty quick with some Sluggo Plus or something. So now for the big containers. Right here is the Hot Plus lobelia. You can see this is looking absolutely fantastic, but I will say that this side did get a little dried out. So you can see it suffers a little bit. It will bounce back. In fact, it's already starting to bounce back. But with these lobelias, they really need their water. They can't dry down or they start looking a little bit bad. So this one, Hot Plus Aqua, and then the next layer is going to be this Mantra geranium. I think that's the magenta. Those are doing pretty well. Again, they were cleaned up today, so there's not a lot of blooms on it at this moment, but it's a beautiful one. And then up here is the Rockin' Blue Suede Shoes salvia. I love this color of blue. It's looking really good with the lobelia. We have been taming this one though, so we've been cutting all the ones around the edge to leave more room for those geraniums, because otherwise you can see over here there was a branch that was coming out, so I had to take one out, and so now I have a bit of a hole, but I think that this geranium and this lobelia is going to fill in pretty nicely. But I have had to keep an eye on this one a little bit more than the others. You might recognize this container here. This is the one that I transplanted. It's looking a little rough because it took another beating in the wind. And that's one thing I'm realizing with this Truffula Pink Gomphrena is it can't be in a real windy spot because of the brittle branches that it has. They snap off a little easier. So you saw one had broken off when I was transplanting, but I had another bit, and they're kind of dropping down since I transplanted. So that's, kind of probably an effect of my transplanting, but hopefully they'll fill in again. The grass is doing fantastic. The plumes are doing great. I love the variegation on it. And then this headliner lipstick petunia looking really good. It's not perfect right now, but it definitely is doing better than it was. I can just see even the leaves. It's got some new growth in the leaves that are doing pretty well. And then over here, this is the other beast that I had transplanted. So this is the Color Blaze Albrighto Coleus. This is that Bandolista Pineapple Lantana, and this lantana is so amazing, but you can see how it might overpower certain containers. So it's a very vigorous variety, so you do have to be a little careful what you put it with. And then we've got the Helianthus in here as well, and this is the Soul Seeker Golden Nectar. And so I love this one. Look at the color in there, and the flowers are nice and big. When they were first starting, they were all really tiny flowers, but now that it's more mature, it's doing much more. And look at how many more are coming. Like, all of these are blooms on their way. Fantastic. Now here's the black and white one, and this one has had some issues because that grass has just been taking over. So I did put a ring in here to help hold it up, and my goal has been to get these petunias to be able to fill in a little better because they were getting so shaded before, and that was a bit of an issue. So I got to give these petunias credit for pulling through. I've had it turned around the other way because that's the way the sun is on the other side. So I turned it around just for the video, but I am seeing a difference in the two petunias, the black ones. So this one here is the Black Ray, and this one over here is the Black Mamba. Now it is a little unfair to compare them because I've been putting them under stress in the shade, but they're doing okay. But I will say that Ray definitely has a little bit more height going for it. And then this is the Supertunia Latte. That's doing fantastic. I mean, it's filling out all the way out to here. This is the Superbena, is it Whiteout? And then this is the Sally Fun Pure White Salvia. And this is such a nice salvia. And it's doing pretty well considering it's next to that grass and the grass is pushing them outward. And then over here is an Itsy White Petunia. The Itsy White is doing okay. I was expecting it to be a lot bigger at this point. Usually the Itzies are very vigorous. This one's being a little bit sluggish for us, but it might have to do with all the shade that grass is giving it. Then over here, this one is kind of all over the place. I have a love-hate with it. So we have the Argyranthum, that's the yellow butterfly. And you can see how this one, they call it burying its dead. So the dead ones are there, and then the next layer of blooms kind of cover it. It works out pretty well. Have it here with this Goldilocks Rocks Bidens. And this is a beautiful plant. The flower is fantastic. I don't think I would put these two together again. And I mentioned this when I was planting it. They're very similar flower structures. Colors are somewhat similar, almost too similar, but yet different enough that it kind of is a little, I don't know, it plays with my mind a little bit when I'm looking at it. So don't love them together, but it still looks pretty good. And then this is the Superbena Peachy Keen. This is the mini famous Uno Calibrachoa, and I really do like this one. It is getting a little bit swallowed up, but it's holding its own, and it is a little bit more compact Calibrachoa compared to some of the other ones. And then over here, we do have it with the Golden Harvest flower showers. This flower showers isn't doing a whole lot. It's not as big as I would have expected it to be, but it might just be the size of the pot, and it's competing with all these other plants in there, so that might be part of it. This one, however, wow. These canna are absolutely huge. I mean, enormous. And it's 2 canna in here. Again, I'm mixing those dark leaves with the light leaves, so I think that's maybe a scarlet or a red, and then this is the yellow. And then this is a Petcoa in here, so it's a cross between a petunia and a Calibrachoa. It's the Super Cal Red Maple. Really nice color in here, and it looks pretty darn good with that canna. They do play off each other pretty well. I was worried that this might be a little too orangey, but they look good together. Using that Bandolista pineapple again, you can tell I really do like this lantana. We went heavy on lantana this year just because we wanted to see how it was going to do. We usually don't do a lot of lantana, and boy, I'm glad we did. You've seen me work with this one before. I've shown you an update on this one. It is not loving the size of this pot anymore. It's at this point where it's holding up pretty well, but it would like more space. So this is one of the yellow petunias, either the bee's knees or the Supertunia saffron finch. I think that was actually bee's knees. This is the Volcanica solar flare coleus. I do really love the look of this one. And then it is with a Prince Tut grass. So definitely they're all fighting for water and space in there right now, but they're holding their own pretty well. I'm for the most part pretty happy with it. This one here has been interesting as well. So we got a lot of verbena in here. So Super Verbena Cobalt Blue, and then also Super Verbena Sparkling Amethyst. This one here we didn't actually have on order. We just had some of them that opened that color, and I'm so glad we had them because I was able to stick them in here. I think they look beautiful in here. This is, it's a flamingo pink geranium, and that's looking great. And then we have it with these canna, which are that kind of lighter pink, but looking really nice. And then this is a Supertunia Bermuda Beach. This one's it's not holding its shape very well, but I think it's because the verbenas are really vigorous. And I have noticed that Supertunia Bermuda Beach, sometimes it's really good at holding up against more vigorous plants, and sometimes it's a little funny. We put it here with this Gardenmeister fuchsia, and the Gardenmeister fuchsia just stopped blooming for a little bit. I'm not sure why, but the foliage is really nice on it. And then I had tucked in this in the back, this other Super Verbena, and I'm glad I did because it's just spilling over the edge. So very, very nice combo there. This one here has been a bit of a surprise because, I mean, I always talk about how Angelonia is a drought tolerant plant. Well, here in an AquaPot, when it's getting as much water as it wants, it's doing really well. Like, this has been just blooming nonstop. I'm really happy to see that. It is with the Amazonas plum cockatoo petunia. I will say that all my Amazonas plum cockatoos sometimes get little brown edges. I'm trying to figure out, it doesn't seem to be a watering issue because this is in the AquaPot. So it does need, it benefits from a little bit of deadheading, which is unfortunate. I would still definitely do this one again. It's just that it doesn't need to be cleaned to bloom more, but it does need to be cleaned to keep looking good, unfortunately. So that's its one drawback, at least in my containers. And this is in here and the other one that I have. So I'm not sure what's going on with that. And over here, I have an interesting update because on this side here, we have the Cabaret Strawberry Parfait, or yes, Calibrachoa. This is looking really nice. It's starting to drape over the edge. Have it with these nonstop begonias, and then have that row of Angelonia. That's the Archangel Cherry Red. Looks pretty good. The Archangels aren't super tall in this one. I'm hoping I can get a little bit more height off of them. I think it's gonna fill out really nicely, but my real joy is coming over here on this side. Someone who watches, I can't remember the name, I will have to look it up, suggested, wouldn't a Super Verbena Cherry Burst look fantastic in there? And I was like, you're so right. And look at this. This is one plant. It goes all the way from over there, all the way around. It's appearing over on this side. So it's super vigorous. Have it here with some Selenia yellow begonias. Now these begonias were struggling a little bit a week ago, or maybe a week and a half ago. So I did use a insecticide on them. It was a granular systemic. I just felt like there was definitely bugs on them. I wasn't sure what to do, and so I did try that. I don't usually use that stuff on these, but it definitely helped. So for that reason, I'm glad I used it. I mean, I don't love using the insecticides, but it did help my begonias. So they're improving. So you can still see they have some wear wounds from whatever was going on, but they are looking pretty darn good. Okay, talk to me everybody. Which ones were your favorite and which plants are going to be making your wish list for next year? Because there's a lot of new varieties out here, so I'm curious to hear which ones were hits with you. Next week starts the trial garden season here in Michigan, so I'm looking forward to getting down there and seeing what some of the new varieties are too. So I got a lot going on right now, and I got to get inside because the mosquitoes are starting to swarm like crazy. So talk to you guys all in the next video. Thanks for watching. See you guys real soon.